Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April 22nd, 2024 Eugene City Council meeting, Earth Day. Happy Earth Day, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the city's public webcast and meeting materials web page. Tonight's meeting will include a public comment period. If you wish to speak during the public comment period and have not already done so, please fill out a request to speak form available on our public webcast and meeting materials webpage, or fill out one of the printed forms available at the entrance to this room. We'll accept request to speak forms until 7:35. These forms will be used to generate the random order of speakers and to correctly enter speakers' names into the public record. For those of you who are joining the meeting remotely, you are welcome to email your comments to the City Council. And as a reminder, the City Council's meeting rules of conduct include no flags, signs, loud or disruptive language, noise, or conduct that obstructs the business of council. We are seeking to create a room that is safe and respectful for everybody to express their opinions and to be heard. And you are always welcome to wave your fingers in silent support. If you're feeling ill or you've had close contact with someone who's feeling ill, we just encourage you to join remotely rather than in person. And we do have masks still in the back if anyone needs one. And with that, I call this April 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Eugene City Council to order, and we'll begin it formally with a land acknowledgement. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. This land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and of honoring Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Ilahi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. Thank you all. And with that, we are ready for the first item on the agenda, which is committee reports and items of interest. Are there counselors? Counselor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Number one, I just wanted to make an announcement that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the Sheldon Community Center is the Cal Young Neighborhood Association meeting. For all of those people who may be watching our meeting and may also be members of the Cal Young Neighborhood Association, I invite you to come by and enjoy that event and learn all kinds of things about your neighborhood association. I would also like to ask, point of privilege, for us to take a moment and acknowledge that today, April 22nd, is the 13-year anniversary of the end of watch and the passing of Officer Christopher Kilcullen. 13 years. That's number 248. Thank you. His service will not be forgotten, and he is missed.
Thank you for that. Any other counselors with update or item? All right, seeing none, I think we can move on to consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. That passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we're ready for consent calendar 2.
Move to approve the Eugene Springfield 2024 annual plan summary for use of federal community development block grant.
Wait, you're on the wrong one.
Oh, it jumped.
Calendar 2, you jumped.
Take 2.
You're on the wrong.
Oh, I see that, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
I move to approve the items on consent calendar 2.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. Did we read that properly? Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right, now you're ready for item 4. Actually, yeah. Do you want to,
Thank you.
maybe let me roll this back. Item on the agenda is the FY25 HUD Annual Action Plan, and I will turn to the city manager to introduce that first.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's requested action is for council to approve the Eugene Springfield Annual Action Plan Summary for the coming fiscal year. Council takes this action annually, allocating federal funds for affordable housing, human services, and job creation investments. The action plan covers 2 sources of federal funding that the city receives each year: Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnerships Program, which are funds we share with Springfield. The proposed allocation of $3.7 million is aligned with the community needs and strategies outlined in the 5-year consolidated plan. We are still awaiting HUD's entitlement award for the coming year, which will impact the final amount of federal funds for allocation. The proposed allocation was reviewed by the Block Grant Advisory Committee, who held a public hearing. It was also posted for a 30-day written comment period.
Thank you. You want to put a motion on the table?
Sure. Move to approve the Eugene Springfield 2024 Annual Action Plan Summary for use of Federal Community Development Block Grant provided in attachment A.
Second.
Any comment or questions? All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That passes unanimously. And now we're ready for the next one, which is the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan Adoption Package. I'll turn it over to the manager again.
Thank you, Mayor. After a long community planning process with many challenges and new opportunities, this is the City Council's opportunity to act on the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan and neighborhood-specific code amendments through 2 separate ordinances. The county will be asked to act on 1 ordinance adopting the neighborhood plan tomorrow, April 23rd. The county does not have a role in considering the city code amendments. The neighborhood-specific city code amendments were modified by your unanimous motion at the April 10 work session. As a result of that motion, the C2 commercial zone code amendments, new prohibited uses, reduced building height, and new design and transition standards will not apply to the River Avenue area due to its industrial and commercial character. After council action, city staff will continue to work with neighborhood leaders to organize the annual coordination meetings to advance high priority action items in the plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we're ready for a motion.
Move to adopt an ordinance amending the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan, adopting the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan, and providing an effective date. And
Let's do one at a time. We need to.
I was going to move to separate, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Okay, great.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Councilor Clark.
Happy to support this. I have served I'm in my 18th year of service, and in all of my years, someone in that area has been working on something that led to this neighborhood plan for a long time, since well before I was elected. And I'm happy to be supportive of the vision and all of the neighbors whose volunteer efforts produced this plan.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
do we dare dub it the Carlene Riley neighborhood?
Well, yeah.
No.
Naming.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I've lost Greg again. Okay. Counselor Evans, are you present? The vote?
I'm here. I can't see, you can't see me, but I'm here.
Okay.
I'm saying yes, 8.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so that passes 8-0. And now the second motion.
Move to adopt an ordinance amending sections 9.2160, 9.2161, 9.2170, 9.2740, 9.2741, 9.8010, and 9.8030 of the Eugene Code 1971, adding maps 9.2161, subsection 11, and 9.2170, subsection 3D to that code, amending figure 9.2170, subsection 4C. Thank you. 9.2170 4C and map 9.8010 of that code and providing an effective date.
Second, but I think there was a 6 at the end
Yeah.
of 9.2170.
Four.
4C6.
Thank you.
Alright.
It's understood. Thank you.
Got it. Okay, Counselor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. I will vote against this. It is, excuse me, and I hope some of my colleagues will join me as I mentioned initially, and that we heard through the public hearings on these ordinances. A number of people had strong concerns, including our planning commission that split. I tend to come down on the side of the chair of the planning commission that there are issues here that would be more wisely resolved over time. There are new issues coming in 2026 with CFEC that we will open all of this back up again and could do it, in my estimation, the right way. And the reason it's not the right way is because it's my opinion that the findings of for these code amendments clearly do not comport and comply and are consistent with the Metro plan. It's been pointed out to us by numerous land use attorneys, 3 whose memos were very clear to me that we're acting actually with a couple of these code amendments definitely inconsistently with the Metro plan, in that we are intentionally discouraging particular varieties of businesses from being supported, which is a part of what Envision Eugene says we are to do. And as well, I think that the height requirement, while I understand the neighbor's desire to have it, I think we should be treating all transportation corridors as planned and similarly across our city. And I think that while they hope a height restriction will produce something that they would like to see happen, I believe it will intentionally keep anything from ever being developed there that they envision, and will restrict them in such a way as to see the same neighborhood with very few changes for a very long period of time. And I don't think it's a wise way to proceed. So I hope my colleagues will join me in that.
Okay, Counselor Gross.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with some of the concerns Councilor Clark is expressing. At the same time, I really want to see this thing move forward. I do want to flag one more time the concern about the on-street parking and the limitations that we have with the narrow streets and the deep drainage ditches on both sides. And as we push more compact growth into the neighborhoods and we have more vehicles that need to park somewhere, it's going to just spill out into the streets. And that is a concern. Now, I'm going to stop right there because I know Councilor Leach has a motion she wants to make on that. But before that, I also want to talk, having some discussions with some of the people from the River Road neighborhood group. I'm hearing the concern about no mixed use being required, which I understand that's coming out of some of our land use changes at the state level, but I would like to find ways that we can encourage mixed use so that we do get some services and businesses in there that can help promote walkable neighborhoods, which I know that there's people in the Santa Clara and River Road area that value that and want to see that supported. And then the last piece I want to flag is continued community involvement. There's going to invariably be unforeseen consequences that we need to be able to respond to. And when those come up, I hope that we still continue to utilize and access the neighborhood groups out there so that we're getting their input into the process as we move forward.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Just quickly,
Councilor Leach.
Mayor, thank you. I do support us passing these code amendments. I think we've been through this process for many years, and many of the volunteers and people passionate about making the plan into an actionable plan. This is the teeth by which that plan can move forward. And so in honor of all of those people and all the staff time, I think we need to pass this. today. And we can always readjust later on down the road. If in 2026, like Counselor Clark has mentioned, things become problematic, we can always make adjustments. But for now, I really encourage us to move forward with this. And I do have a motion to help address that on-street parking issue that Counselor Groves mentioned. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know Counselor Clark wants a second round. Anyone else? Right.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that, but I appreciate my colleague's point of view and her perspective and her attempt to appreciate the work of the neighborhood as I do. But I would say that one of the reasons for my no vote is that there is absolutely no nexus and no connection between the code amendments and the neighborhood plan. It can't be made. The case cannot be made that the code amendments are the embodiment of anything in the plan. That's one of my problems with it. So it's not to support the neighborhood plan that these were put forward. And it's one of my chief problems with it is they stand alone and they're actually contrary to the metropolitan plan. So thank you.
Okay, that said, all in favor of the motion on the table, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Counselor Evans?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, 7. Opposed, 1. So that passes. Thank you very much. And now I'll turn to Counselor Leach for her motion.
Move to hold a work session before January 1, 2025 to discuss possible options for addressing on-street parking issues in the River Road and Santa Clara areas.
Second. Third.
All right, Counselor Leach first. Do you want to speak to that motion at all before I turn to Counselor Clark with a comment?
Just briefly, I think this is really important for us to talk about. It's an ongoing issue. I think it's going to be an issue that becomes more problematic over time as more developments in that area start to come up. Like Counselor Groves mentioned, there's very narrow streets, most of them, that are county are undeveloped. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on those neighbors in the neighborhood. So let's come back to this. Let's talk about what we could possibly do to help ameliorate that over time.
Thank you. Thank you. And Counselor Clark.
Thank you. I'd like to add the friendly amendment that we have a separate work session on voluntary annexation that partners with that. If you accept.
I accept.
As a second, I do too. I think that is.
Not sure you're the second, Counselor.
Yeah.
It's his job to be the second.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at legal counsel because this is. So we're putting up the motion. It's not to add that discussion to that work session. It is to have 2 separate
Correct.
work sessions.
Correct.
One, okay.
I believe they go hand in hand. One will not work well without the other. We don't have any jurisdiction on-street parking with the county roads that you're mentioned, but that will become a huge problem, one with which many city residents will have concerns and want us to do something. So I think it would be a better idea for us to proceed in tandem with those pieces of work.
Okay, Counselor Semple, comment?
Thank you. I think we should keep these separate. I think they're 2 separate issues, although related. So I don't know if I need to move to divide since it hasn't been accepted yet, but.
I believe it has been accepted. So the motion as with the friendly would be a work session on the on-street parking and a work session on, and just so I'm clear, voluntary annexation. And not just a right of way, but voluntary annexation.
Voluntary.
Yeah, okay. So you could move to divide. But it's already 2 work sessions. It's 2 work sessions, but 1 motion. You couldn't vote for one without the other.
I support both of them, but I prefer to vote on them separately.
Just okay.
So I move to divide.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion to divide, please raise your hands. 1, 2. All right. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Counselor Evans?
6. 6.
Yes, to divide. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's three in favor of dividing, 5 opposed, so it fails. Okay, so then we're back to the original motion with the friendly. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed. 1. Counselor Evans,
Yes.
you're in favor. So
Yes.
7 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all. Yes.
I just wanted to thank the people in River Road, Santa Clara for solving parking for the rest of the city so that we can replicate it.
I thought the university area did that for us.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a next item of business, Pioneer Business Park right-of-way vacation. City manager, do you want to speak to this one also, or? Or,
I'm sorry, I'm taking a note. I don't have talking points.
okay, all right, I think we can just put a motion on the table for that one.
Move to adopt the ordinance as provided in attachment B, vacating Premier Street and a portion of First Avenue West, all located within the plat of Pioneer Resources Business Park, and providing for an effective date.
Second.
All in, yes, sorry, conversation. So Counselor Groves and then Counselor Zelenka.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak to this motion. This area is in my council ward, and I know that this business has sustained many thousands of dollars in theft of copper wire, and they need the ability to secure their property to remain in this location. And I think it's vitally important that we support them and hopefully be able to get some more police patrols out in that area as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Zelenka.
Well, I was going to ask why they're doing, because it didn't said in the AIS, there's no reason given for this in terms of but it's
To secure the property.
Okay, the manager has a comment.
Yes, I did actually have talking
Okay.
points because staff is amazing. I was just taking a note. I was slightly distracted. So the second piece of that, the applicant has made this request to facilitate their intent to fence and secure the industrial park. While the applicant has requested a vacation for the streets, they propose a PUE, which is a public utility easement, for the entire vacation area to ensure future access is maintained for any existing underground infrastructure. And we do have staff available if you need to have more questions. Jeff is here online.
so it's an existing street, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And so we're vacating it, and therefore the owner will now be responsible for its maintenance.
There's no other businesses around. It's just in.
Jeff, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to confirm that my audio is working okay. Everybody
yeah.
got me. The street was dedicated through an original subdivision when they created the industrial park. And then the road was constructed, and as was just mentioned by Councilor Groves, the property that is being vacated is all surrounded by the owner who's requesting the vacation. So that's they'll be able to secure and fence as their proposal identifies, and that road will transfer back to private ownership.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? All in favor, please raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counselor Evans?
Yes.
8. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And with that, we're completed with that business and we're ready for public comment, which is a period, which is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the city council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. And I think staff are ready to present that list of speakers.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 15 speakers this evening. I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. If you are announced as the next speaker, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of the 2.5 minutes. Your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that the use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Our first speaker this evening is Erica Lyon, followed by Richard Locke.
All right. Hi, all. This is Erica Lyon, and I live in Ward 8. And I would just like to urge you to support star voting. I'm highly grateful that you decided not to oppose it, but there's so much to appreciate about star voting that we aren't quite sure why you haven't jumped on board yet. One major advantage of STAR that benefits both voters and elected city officials is that it eliminates the primary, at least on the local level. This will save the city money and reduce the burden of administration. Local candidates will also be freed from the burden of running 2 campaigns, saving them money and allowing them to focus on their primary tasks of running the government. Because the primaries are also a major hurdle for less moneyed candidates, it would level a playing field somewhat between candidates with more and those with less money, making it a more fair race. It would save voters time and energy as well. Nonpartisan primary elections are notoriously low turnout, and so by eliminating these, a voter will be able to focus all their mental energy on the main elections, which tend to draw more voter interest, creating more robust engagement. Of course, this is only the beginning. Star voting offers huge advantages to average voters that would allow them to be more honest. It allows voters to support multiple candidates at once, so if their favorite doesn't make it to the runoff, all the scores they give to the other candidates will help them advance. Then, in the final round, a voter's vote goes to the candidate they scored higher of the 2 finalists. This makes it so that their vote counts no matter what. So even if their favorite doesn't win, it isn't a wasted vote. This would allow the voter to vote more honestly and support the candidates they actually want to win, rather than just be stuck choosing between the lesser of evils. It would also avoid vote splitting and the spoiler effect. This happens when a less viable candidate siphons off votes from one of the 2 major candidates, causing the less favored candidate to win. We saw it in the 2000 national election when Nader took enough votes from Gore that Bush, the less favored candidate, won. We also saw it in Alaska recently after the adoption of ranked choice voting, when the Republican vote was split, allowing the only Democrat running, which is Peltola, to win the race. This is the chance for Eugene to lead the nation in voting reform. Think of how proud you'll be for supporting such momentous change. So it's time to get on the right side of history and support star voting.
Thank you, Erica. Our next speaker is Richard Locke, followed by Scott Fife.
Good evening. My name is Rich Locke, Ward 8 business owner and president of the Eugene Business Alliance. What I want to talk about is the crossing there at Danabo and down by Roosevelt there on the railroad tracks. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the garbage is more immense on both sides of the road. And I did check with the railroad, and they say they are very firm on trespassers, and those campers are not trespassing on private property. I've talked to the owners; they're not. They are complaining, and they're not getting any action. But I did find in the code there, code 4.808, criminal trespassing in the first degree. A person commits a crime of criminal trespass in the first degree if the person, D, enters or remains unlawfully upon railroad yards, tracks, bridges, or right-of-ways. Why are we not policing this? We're just moving these railroad crossing encampments that our city is allowing to happen from one place. A few weeks ago, it was down off of 5th Street there by the RV place. And it's been on every intersection out in West Eugene. Why are we continuously driving these undesirable folks towards our most vulnerable neighborhoods? Do they not have rights? Do they not fall under equity of safety? I mean, we're talking about 97% of Eugene are reasonably good people. And we seem to, as a group here, drive those unwanted people towards the people who have the least amount of money And it's our most diverse neighborhoods there is. So I would like to challenge this group to start laying a little bit more onto our nonprofit providers to open up the bottom of these.
Thank you, Rich. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker this evening is Scott Fifes, followed by Samuel Monson.
Yeah, I'm talking on this Earth Day about,
Introduce yourself
my
and your
name's
board,
Scott
please.
Fife. I live in Ward 1. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say on this Earth Day that the Eugene city is subsidizing concrete production. Concrete production is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases behind the United States and China. And I've heard from my counselor, Emily Semple, that, well, we need housing. And I've just thought of some other ideas. Like in some places, they're taking buildings. We have tons of unoccupied buildings downtown, office buildings. And I just looked online today to see how much the Eugene Hostel cost. It's $70 a night. Now, each one of these floors in these buildings downtown, they have a women's bathroom and they have a men's bathroom. One could stay as a bathroom, and one could be converted into a shower and a kitchen. And I'm just wondering, I'm also wondering about this whole Atkin Dame development that's on the riverfront. I see there's going to be 7 stories, 237 market rate apartments. And I don't think that Atkin Dame was being honest when they presented this. I went to some of their presentations and they didn't say anything about wanting corporate welfare. And I'm wondering, you're going to make these things this high now. Are we going to be able to see the river from Skinner Butte? Because it looks like we might not be able to. Did anyone look at that and find out if that was the truth? And I have to wonder about, about intelligence or gullibility of the city council, because they said it wouldn't pencil out in this hot real estate market. I can hardly believe this, but that was the same excuse that, when they built the one on 16th Ave and Opie's things, he said it wouldn't pencil out. Is that the magic words? You get people to vote for this thing? Seems to be. Anyway. I see that you're giving $25 billion to market rate apartments and only $5 million to affordable apartments. Now, I know that you have the ability to change that around. And here's another thing. Whole Foods, they wanted to come in here, over 15 years ago, and they wanted to get subsidized to come in here, and the people said no. But guess what? They came anyway. And so I think you have to, this last MUPG thing you did was actually a better deal. But,
Thank you, Scott. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Samuel Monson, followed by Kellen Stanley.
Hi, Sam Monson, Ward 7. I'm here to talk to you tonight about star voting. I have a professional background in quality assurance testing. Can we raise this? Okay. I'm here to talk to you tonight about star voting. I have a professional background in quality assurance testing, computer security, and systems administration. All of this work has a common goal of robust and reliable systems. When we have a critically important system, the most reliable thing we can do is actively update it. The updates go through rigorous scrutiny to ensure that they don't introduce new problems, and we do as much testing as possible internally before delivering an update to the public. The best course of action is always to address problems as soon as we know they are coming, and the worst course of action is to stick with a system that has known weak points because this problem isn't yet a crisis. There's another proposal for addressing our voting problems currently branded as ranked choice voting. It's often said to be well tested because it has a long track record of usage in public elections. But being well tested is only a good thing if the results show that the problem is solved. The results on ranked choice voting show that it does not solve the problem it sets out to address, and it introduces several problems that it didn't have before. This is not the update we should be looking at, and we have abundant data to show that. Star voting is the response to those test results. It has undergone intense scrutiny and has been adopted internally by several organizations who are happy with how it has served them. The only remaining level of testing that it could be put under is to use it in elections for public office. There are concerns about complexity. While the ballot may be more complicated, the overall process is much simpler. When you can only support one candidate, the decision becomes a strategic decision with factors like who seems electable, who are other people voting for, what do the polls look like, and so on. With star voting, all someone has to think about is how much they like the candidates. Star voting also presents voters with an interface they are already familiar with. 5-point scoring systems are used for product reviews, trip reviews, customer service reviews, almost anything that asks for a review. Star voting brings filling out your ballot in line with what people are already doing to show preference. For these reasons and many more, I strongly support star voting, and I hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Our next speaker is Kellen Stanley, followed by Deborah McGee.
Hi, I'm Kellen Stanley. I'm in South Hills. I'm also a member of the Equal Vote Coalition, which is fighting for true equality in the vote. I'm here to support star voting. They say that for every complex problem, there's an answer that is simple, obvious, and wrong. This may be an overstatement, but I think that we can agree that for some complex problems, there exist solutions that possess these properties. I believe that representative democracy is one such complex problem, and choose one voting or plurality voting is one such answer that is simple, obvious, and wrong. In our young country, launching a new experiment in democracy, I think that we made a mistake. This deceptively simple voting method simply isn't accurate. It's only accurate when there are two candidates in the race and can be as little as 70% accurate in electing the candidate with the highest favorability among voters. This is because the majority can be split between multiple candidates, electing a candidate only supported by a minority of the voters. This is part of why it doesn't feel very good to vote in a democracy right now. This simple technology creates a problem that requires an enormous amount of strategic thinking, much like Sam's point made. Voters need to predict how everyone else is going to cast their ballot in order to cast their own ballot to avoid wasting their vote, splitting their vote, or accidentally helping to elect their least favorite candidate. Participating in our democracy this way makes the process exhausting, discouraging, and an uninspiring experience. It's not what we were going for. I would love to cast a ballot where the only person's opinion I needed to consult was my own. I would love to be able to trust that my vote would not misfire and give me a result that I don't prefer. I would love for the process to be calm, empowering, uplifting, as participating in democracy should be. I would love to not feel manipulated by our politics. STAR delivers such a reality. It tops the charts in terms of accuracy. When voters vote honestly, it returns a 98% accuracy in electing the candidate with the highest favorability. This is according to peer review research, which you can find on the website starvoting.org/articles. It allows us to vote our conscience. And
thank you, Kellen. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Deborah McGee, followed by Linda Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Deborah McGee. I've lived about 10 miles outside of Eugene for 40 years. Genocide, nuclear threats, wars and pollution, income inequality, racism, poverty, addiction, homelessness, they all need solutions. However, the one thing overriding all these issues, it's the carbon in the atmosphere that's heating up our tissues. So you passed a resolution mitigating risks of methane gas, and now staff is working hard to find that path to clean, safe energy. You know we all need it. Geothermal, wind, solar wave, clean energy, synergy. Bill McKibben, teacher, 350 co-founder, said it so well. We're in an experiment. Here's the final test. We got great big brains, but how we live, modernity, is driving us insane. So whatever direction you choose for us to go, we want you to know. We want you to be even bolder, and you should go faster and farther than you ever thought you could, because the hour is late. It's 1.2 degrees hotter. But that doesn't seal our fate. We still have a chance. It's a roll of the dice, and who will pay the price? Folks of color, the vulnerable, the young, the old. Really, what's the reason? Same old, the pursuit of gold. Dollar bill, y'all, dollar bill, the golden calf. If it wasn't so horrific, it would make you laugh. Allowed to poison people and planet at will, it really is a bitter pill. Regulators captured, saying there's a need, but we all know we're being poisoned for corporate greed. Northwest fracked methane gas saying we have to have their poison power. But I feel the day a coming, I feel the hour. People gonna rise up like a mighty wave. No more tax subsidies, no more poison. So our children we will save. Mayors, city councilors of 2024, you are the leaders we've been waiting for. You are the leaders we've been waiting for. We expect a lot from you, but we need even more. Because the one single thing overriding all these issues, it's the carbon in the atmosphere heating up our tissues. We, your constituents, have your backs.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next speaker is Linda Kelly, followed by Peter Dragovich.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Linda Kelly, and I live in Ward 1. I'd like to quote an excerpt from a book called Not Too Late. It is late. We are in a deep emergency, but it's not too late because the emergency is not over. The longer we wait to act, the more limited our options. Scientists tell us that there are good options and great urgency to embrace them while we can. That's the quote. An emergency has within itself the word emerge. As applied to our energy future, a crucial piece in stabilizing our climate means our future will be without fossil fuels and powered by electricity. 2 articles I read this week highlight this need. The first was in the Register Guard labeled, Feds Propose Transit Options for Spent Nuclear Fuel. The bottom line is, after years of assessing what is safest, they cannot find any state that will take it. A Washington Post survey showed what people believe makes the most difference in personal choices. Opinions varied. However, one conclusion was, and I quote, "The most important thing anybody can do is to vote for a climate-friendly government agenda." There are exciting options emerging: grid-enhanced technology and carbon fiber conduit to replace older steel in transformers and distribution lines will greatly increase electrical capacity quickly. Please listen to a Volts podcast. I don't know if anybody have you listened to those, but on January 31st, 2024 is really crucial and very interesting developments happening. Enhanced geothermal energy is quickly becoming the safe, clean energy baseload of the future. Basically, the sun beneath our feet, the one that doesn't set. It can be used as direct ground source heat and as electricity, It is being employed both in neighborhoods and larger commercial and government buildings in a number of cities. I encourage you to be an important part of the solutions. We can act locally. Changing times take courage. There are always the fear-driven, backward-looking voices. Please move.
Thank you, Linda. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Peter Dragovich, followed by Jim New.
Good evening, Mayor Venus, members of the council. My name is Peter Dragovich, resident of Ward 5. The economic costs of global warming are accelerating. The Institute of Actuaries based in the UK assesses risks faced by pension funds and insurance companies. On climate change, they say, quote, "At what point do we expect 50% gross domestic product destruction? Somewhere between 2070 and 2090, end quote. That is not an upper end estimate. They expect a worldwide destruction, their word, of GDP from climate change if we stay on our current course, the 3-degree world by 2080. A 50% loss of GDP compares to 27% in the Great Depression, 5% in the 2008 recession, and 4% during COVID. 2070 is not that far away. Many Eugene residents now in their 20s will still be working in 2070, or not. A 50% GDP loss is similar to other reports. Cambridge Econometrics and Ortec Finance state that a portfolio of 60% global equities and 40% bonds will lose 40% in value in a climate change failed transition scenario, a 4-degree world by 2100. Morgan Stanley reports that nearly half of worldwide wheat, rice, and maize production are in areas at risk of climate change disasters. Food prices are now rising up to 3.2% per year solely from climate change. State Farm Insurance announced last week they will not renew existing policies for 30,000 homes in wooded hillside areas in the Bay Area. They stopped issuing new policies and raised rates 20% in that state last year, due in part to climate risk. In Oregon, Natural Resource Economics reports cost of climate change statewide will reach $27 billion per year, including food costs, loss of income, wildfires, health issues, and salmon decline, or $17,000 per Oregon household. Transportation, the electric grid, and buildings all need to be decarbonized quickly. Of those three, you have the most direct responsibility for and ability to act on buildings. Please do everything you can to eliminate fossil fuels in buildings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Our next speaker is Jim New, followed by Charlie Rojas.
Mayor, Council, and City Manager, I'm Jim New and I live in Ward 7. This past January, a 4-day ice storm settled over the Willamette Valley, causing widespread power outages, preventing mobility, hampering rescue efforts, and exemplifying the power Mother Nature has in shaping our lives. Events like this should be used as a learning tool in determining resiliency in our power generating system. Locally generated energy through multi-source rooftop and community solar systems with battery storage, coupled with microgrid technology, would keep power energized to participating neighborhood communities. During the storm, my PV system with battery storage provided power to my home. Locally distributed renewable energy keeps power generation near the point of consumption, increasing odds against outages and reduce transmission losses. Smart grid technology can detect and respond to outages more efficiently and increases resiliency in the distribution system. Virtual power plant systems incorporate solar arrays with battery storage, EV battery, and smart thermostats in maintaining resource adequacy. The Inflation Reduction Act provides funding to develop and expand publicly owned renewable energy generation. Municipalities and local utilities should work collaboratively with the public industry and commercial businesses, community partners, and organized labor groups to develop and implement renewable energy products. Renewable energy emergency hubs should be established in the city and county that do not rely on extended use of diesel generators. Priority sites would be the Eugene Airport as part of the new terminal expansion plan and the new YMCA. Both rooftops with solar and battery storage could power the terminal and the new eWeb well in South Amazon Park, and this could be implemented at other well locations. Locally generated renewable energy systems with microgrid capabilities may be the remedy in the next big weather event to keep electricity flowing to its customer base. The latest ice storm demonstrated we don't have time to waste. Thank you for listening and allowing public testimony.
Thank you, Jim. Our next speakers are Charlie Rojas, followed by Patricia Hine.
Charlie Rojas, Ward 7. April 4th, Eugene issued a report of a city budget crisis, meaning a deficit of at least $11 to $15 million. Not mentioned is budget reserves are significantly below 4%, another hallmark of a failing municipality. Did it not occur to the council nor the city manager shutting down nearly the entire economy for 2 years, giving away tens of millions in tax breaks and subsidies for real estate development, as well as the existence of approximately 200 nonprofits in Lane County and Eugene, none of which pay taxes, would cause a revenue shortfall? Did it not occur to you all of that would demand a much higher degree of vigilance of the city and of the staff and city manager? Did any of you request the city manager or staff to give you a report of Eugene's financial status? Apparently not. Most importantly, did anyone from the city approach you prior to April 4th and warn you Eugene was in financial distress? I'm pretty sure they did. So why didn't you all make us aware of what was taking place? If you knew this long before April 4th, why did you, Lindsay Leach, continue flacking a downtown redevelopment project requiring tens of millions in taxpayer subsidies? The only conclusion is you did not want your constituents to realize the policies most of you rubber stamped have been abject failures. Your most important job is not the passage of unconstitutional gas bans, a middle housing amendment so poorly crafted the Oregon Court of Appeals threw it out, nor having your city-chartered River Road and Santa Clara community organizations hector or lecture us about white supremacy and institutional racism. Your only job was a proper oversight of your constituents' resources in order not to have budget deficits nor depleted reserves. None of you, including the city manager nor staff, can be trusted. Why should anyone believe the deficit is not worse than $11 to $15 million? What's needed is a performance audit. Some of you are going to argue we don't have the money to have an analysis of your failures. Well, I suggest that we start at the top and ask, why does the city manager need 2 or 3 assistants? Parenthetically, since I live in River Road, your plan for River Road is obsolete and worthless. If you don't have enough money to fund core services, what good are your plans at all?
Thank you, Charlie. Our next speakers are Patricia Hine, followed by Sarah Wolk.
Good evening, Mayor Venus, city councilors, Manager Maderi. My name is Patty Hine. I live in the county and I volunteer with 350 Eugene. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. Happy Earth Day. I'm here tonight to thank you for your work on our city's climate action plan goals and to commend you on your progress. Now I'm urging you to move quickly this spring and summer to bring back a legally defensible ordinance that will limit unhealthy levels of air pollution in our homes. I heard it suggested that the problem of air pollution in homes from fossil gas is a small problem. Why don't we reduce pollution from transportation since that sector represents greater emissions? But ensuring our buildings, especially our homes, are safe places for families to live and breathe, it's a perfect place to start. Transportation policy is mainly set at the state and federal levels, while cities may use building codes and regulations to ensure our safety. But we don't have to do it alone. There's substantial new money coming from federal and state bills representing funding for most significant carbon pollution reductions in the history of America. Earlier this month, the U.S. Department of Energy published its first comprehensive federal strategy to reduce emissions in buildings by 90%. Projecting reductions that will save consumers more than $100 billion in annual energy costs and avoid $17 million in annual health costs through building upgrades, efficient electrification, and smart controls. The time is now. Climate impacts are real and they're local. As you know, people are already paying higher bills for air conditioning because it's hotter, sometimes very hot. There will be days when we can't go outside due to fires and smoke, and food prices are rising because of drought. Solid, clean, renewable energy alternatives are advancing rapidly across the country, and the transition to efficient electric heating, cooling, and water heating has the support of major market players and manufacturers. Cities and states can and should create a positive business environment by making pragmatic, understandable, enforceable policy to limit residential sources of pollution, especially those that are hidden. Building electrification promises to deliver widespread health benefits, particularly in communities with high levels of pollution. I urge you most strongly to bring back at a work session a electrification.
Thank you, Patricia. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Sarah Wolk, followed by Stefan Strack.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Sarah Wolk, Ward 7. In just under 1 month, Eugene voters will go to the polls and determine if we the people want to maintain the system as it is now, or if we want to upgrade to star voting for our local citywide elections. Today, it's Earth Day, and that brings me back and reminds me of the reason I chose voting reform and why I chose star voting as the cause that I've been working on for many years now. I believe that star voting has the greatest potential to make us more effective on every other issue we care about. When I first started down this path, I knew things were not looking good for our world. 21 years ago today, I was 19 years old, and the US was bombing 2,000-year-old buildings in Baghdad as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And at the same time, on Earth Day, Maxim Lumber was cutting down a grove of 2,000-year-old redwood trees, including one in particular that I'd been fighting very hard to protect. We failed. I'm calling on you to make sure that this time we don't fail. We are not at an armchair moment in history. This is the kind of moment that calls for political courage and political leadership. As we've seen from Councilors Evans and Semple on this issue, thank you for your endorsements. I'd also like to thank city staff for your professionalism. Star voting isn't rocket science. It's common sense. Star voting streamlines the local election process, helps elect more consensus-supported representative leadership, and encourages more positive, issue-oriented campaigns. Most importantly, star voting helps prevent polarization by ensuring that the voice of every voter is heard and can make a difference. Preventing polarization is not just a talking point. Extreme polarization is war. Extreme polarization is the destruction of our planet and resources. If Eugene adopts star voting, we'll be the first city to put this science-backed system on the map. This is one area where we, Eugene, can have a global impact and not a moment too soon. I urge you all to join me in voting yes on Measure 20-349, star voting for Eugene.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next speaker is Stefan Streck, followed by Buck Olin.
So thank you, City Council. My name is Stefan Streck, and I appreciate the time tonight. I've lived in Eugene for 25 years, and I'm happy to speak out in support of the less fortunate today. I understand there's been a lot of scampering about the budget, and 12 or $15 million might sound like a lot of a deficit, but the budget's $800 million. So it's kind of shocking that that's not enough money to get everything covered. And suggestions are being made for cuts that are pretty inexcusable. I am shocked and appalled and horrified that there hasn't been more pushback on the proposal to slash $400,000 from the library's budget. There are hard times for everybody. We're in a recession, but cutting library funding during a recession is like cutting hospital funding during a plague. It's inexcusable and it's irresponsible, and it robs those who are most at risk and will suffer the most from lost opportunities to better themselves and better our society. There are too many parents who are going to skip dinner tonight because that's the only way they can afford to send their kids to school with lunch in the morning. These are the same people who can't afford to just go out and buy new books. These are the same people who need the library so that they can have some benefit from the society that they're paying taxes into, and that money has been disgustingly mismanaged. I was absolutely aghast to hear that it's been proposed to put an additional $1.4 million to the city manager's office so that she doesn't have to refill her own coffee. That's a lot of money. And if that money is being proposed that way, it doesn't seem reasonable to cut that from the budget for the library. Now, got a lot more to say, but I would just like to say that Einstein said, the one thing you absolutely need to know is the location of the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Our next speaker is Buck Olin, followed by our final speaker, Tomoko Sakaguchi.
Hello, Mayor Venice, Eugene City Council. My name is Buck Olin. I live in Ward 1, and I'm an ardent supporter of all action we can take to mitigate the effects of climate change while building resiliency and sustainability within our community. In doing so, we can set an example for communities throughout Oregon and the world at large. The clarity of vision Council showed in recognition of the dire situation facing global ecosystems and humanity's sustainability by passing Oregon's first in the state electrification ordinance is of absolute necessity. I believe you share my frustration over the Ninth Circuit Court's misguided legal ruling in Berkeley, which forced the electrification ordinance to be repealed. Nonetheless, I'm confident that Council will remain steadfast in their resolve, moving with all expediency towards an alternative that will withstand legal scrutiny. I will not recount examples of the various pathways that have been successfully utilized by communities like Ashland to require electrification, as I know Council is well informed on these details. I will, however, urge you to value the lessons learned from the initial and failed attempt at passing an electrification ordinance. In doing so, avoiding future setbacks that further expose our community, and specifically the most vulnerable among us, to the toxic and life-threatening effects of fossil fuel dependency. To remain an influential leader in the electrification movement, we need to demonstrate our capacity for resilience and determination in the face of adversity and failure. We can do this by taking meaningful and direct action to protect our climate and public health, and I respectfully demand that you do so at the June electrification work session. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you, Buck. Our next and final speaker is Tomoko Sakaguchi.
Good evening, members of the Eugene City Council, and happy Earth Day. My name is Tomoko Sekiguchi, and I live in Ward 3, and I'm retired from the University of Oregon, where I wrote software to evaluate energy loss and gain in buildings. I want to express appreciation for the leadership you've demonstrated by passing Oregon's groundbreaking electrification ordinance. Your commitment to environmental stewardship and sustainability is commendable. However, recent challenges, particularly the Ninth Circuit Court ruling in Berkeley, have hindered our progress. And I thought that you were going to have an electrification session in June, and I hope that is being scheduled. Yes? Okay, great. And I urge swift action to electrify Eugene's homes and buildings. Delay denies us benefits like climate resilience, public health, and economic vitality outlined in our climate recovery ordinance. There are legally defensible pathways to electrification as affirmed by legal experts. Options such as building performance standards, restricting new gas piping in right-of-way and ways, and implementing a carbon charge offers viable solutions. It's crucial to acknowledge the detrimental role of Northwest Natural in obstructing climate policy. From suing to repeal climate protection plans to funding anti-electrification ordinance campaigns, Northwest Natural's actions undermine our effort towards sustainability. And solutions like renewable Northwest natural gas and green hydrogen are distractions from the urgent need to transition to clean, renewable energy sources. Gas stoves pose health risks of emitting pollutants comparable to secondhand smoke and contributing to childhood asthma. These risks underscore the importance of prioritizing electrification for the well-being of our community. The Ninth Circuit Court decision, influenced by fossil fuel interests, highlight the need to counter.
Thank you, Tomoko.
Thank you.
Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for orchestrating that. And thank you, all of you, for coming in person to speak to climate change and future actions for the council and talk about star voting and budget. And I'm opening the floor. Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. And I too want to thank everyone for venturing out tonight to attend this meeting, and especially those who testified. City Manager, could we get a definitive answer on what we can and cannot do in railroad right-of-ways? I've heard so many times when I brought up issues from the encampment over by the U of O with all the garbage that's about 3 feet deep into the soil and getting into our waterways, of our limitations. And, Rich Locke is right. It is prevalent in the railroad right-of-ways in West Eugene. And just so we at least know what we're dealing with, I would certainly appreciate that. The second thing I wanted to bring up was I just recently became aware of what advanced conductoring is and the different types of electrical lines that could quadruple our transmission capacity. That's been one of the things I've been worried about all along, is how are we going to meet the needs when it takes about 12 years to get permitting through to run a new transmission line. But if we can use existing pathways, existing routes, existing towers, that puts us in a very different position. So Councilor Zelinka explained to me with his professional background in this, that it's been around for a while, but just in the last couple of weeks, I became aware of it. So that does give me hope. It does give me thoughts about what we can do in the future. And I think it's going to be more of that type of a thing that we need to take care of. The last piece on parking, I started with that tonight. I guess I'll end on that. You know, we are moving towards more electric vehicles, but they take up just as much room as a vehicle powered by an internal combustion engine. And not only do we have parking needs for our electric vehicles, just like we do our internal combustion engine powered vehicles, we also have places we need to be able to park where we can charge. So we need to be taking that into consideration as we design our neighborhoods, as we continue working on infill. I think that's going to be incredibly important in the future. And to remember that the electric vehicles are heavier than vehicles powered by internal combustion engines, which also speaks to roadways and road maintenance. So these are things that we need to be thinking about as we move forward in our work in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Keating and then Councilor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for those who showed up to provide testimony tonight. We are 28 days, 16 hours, 11 minutes, and 23 seconds to Election Day, but who's counting? A deadline that's right around the corner. 1 week from tomorrow is the voter registration deadline. So we're a nonpartisan body. If you'd like to participate in a partisan primary, you need to update or change your registration at OregonVotes.gov. Or if you're a new Oregon voter, OregonVotes.gov, or drop by Lane County Elections. You have until April 30th to update, change, or register to vote to participate in the May 21 primary. To our friends in red, and Buck and Jim, I'm including you, thank you. The earth is round. Yes, we landed on the moon, and climate change is real. I appreciate your action, your enthusiasm, and your dedication. Happy Earth Day.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ye.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to just quickly comment on the budget situation. It's concerning, and I know we all have priorities that we don't want to see affected. In fact, I'm sure many of us have areas of need we know would benefit from increases in funding, not decreases. But to suggest that current staff are getting anyone coffee is disrespectful to the dedicated and hardworking staff we are fortunate to have in our city. Staff are continuing to attempt to do more work, and provide services for an ever-growing community with less funds and less time. These are not easy decisions, and I hope that we can all work together and receive feedback from our community along the way. But the narrative that city employees aren't doing vital, important work isn't helpful and isn't accurate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other councilors with comments? I just want to say to the 350 folks, I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you about what you're thinking of, and also maybe clarify about what work sessions are coming back and when. So maybe we can set up a time to have that conversation. And with that, if there are no other comments, I think we are adjourned. Thank you so much.